Spectrovision Radio.
And I had stayed in the grove too long. It was the only time I'd been in this little stretch of forest at night. Was this night. I realized it was now like properly dark and there was no moon and it was drizzling. And I'm like, I should probably start making my way home. And I hear what kind of sounds like, I can only describe it like Eddie Vedder, like sort of that Pearl Jam style singing. And I pull my earbuds out and I'm like, what the hell am I hearing? And up to about, I don't know, like my 2 o'clock is where I'm hearing Eddie Vedder. And then from the 10 o'clock, as that sort of dies down and I don't hear it anymore, I'm like, well, that's strange. This super loud and deep howl, louder than either of my dogs can make. I've never heard anything quite like this and that loud.
They claim that our eyes will just be created a slightly different from what they are. When we talk, we see things are not normal.
Welcome to Strange Familiars. Allison,
Yes.
how you doing?
Okay, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year to all who are listening as well. Are you happy to be back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
that didn't sound convincing. I do truly mean it, yes.
Tonight I'm going to be talking with Nate, who has a series of synchronicities and strange encounters around a patch of woods that he began to call the Witch's Grove. And Nate also described some dreams and encounters with greys that he had. Pretty interesting stuff coming up. Before we get to that, though, there's a new shirt pre-order. It's up now. It's at the Etsy shop. You can find links to it at strangefamiliars.com. There's a post on Facebook. There's a post on Instagram. There's a post on Patreon. It's for the Barred Owl long sleeve t-shirt. And we also offer a zipper hoodied version. The pre-order will be open for 2 weeks. So I think we're closing on the 23rd. Is that a Friday? The 23rd?
I just know off the top of my head.
You're usually pretty good with that stuff.
Yeah, it's a Friday.
Yeah. We'll be closing pre-orders on the 23rd.
Uh-huh.
So make sure to get your orders in. Like I said, with the last shirts, the best way to make sure you get one, especially if you're an extended size, is to pre-order.
Because you can get anything from like an extra small to like a 5X, I think, right?
We do small through 5X.
Oh, small through 5X.
Yeah. I think we can get extra small in the hoodies, but that option isn't up there. If that's something you want, let me know, and we can work that out. But we only order a few extra of these, especially the hoodies. They're very expensive to make. Last time, and it happens every time, I told people, like, make sure to pre-order. I'm only going to order a few extra. I ordered a few extra. They sold out, I think, in days. Like, we announced it on Thursday. We have extra ones. They were done by Saturday or Sunday. And
will this be the same color blue that, like, the Strange Familiars blue?
It's the Blue of the Eyes of Night t-shirt, that sort of special blue that Sage mixed up for us. It's a really striking blue on black. The t-shirts have what I call the Doom Metal logo down the sleeve. It's the logo I did for the High Strangeness Tour t-shirts in the sleeve of that. And the hoodies.
Oh, it's a long sleeve.
It's a long sleeve t-shirt.
Oh, okay.
And the hoodies have that on the right sleeve as well. But the hoodies also have the Awoken Tree, the regular Strange Familiars logo on the front breast, and the owl on the back.
Nice.
Again, pre-orders are open for 2 weeks. Please, if you want one, pre-order. It helps us know how many to order, really.
Yeah.
Whatever pre-orders we get, we just order a handful more than that, and that's what we have to sell. So, again, you can find that at Patreon. You can find it at our Etsy shop. You can find links on Facebook, Instagram, and at strangefamiliars.com. Thanks, everybody. It's another way to support the show. I think we'll probably try to do like a shirt or a hoodie or something every season. We'll try to do one. All right. So that's the Barred Owl shirt. So go ahead and check that out. Let's go ahead and get to Nate's story. During Nate's interview, he mentions this article, this historic newspaper article about the Bear King in Texas. Sounds like a Bigfoot kind of thing. And he was nice enough to send us a copy of the article. So we will read that when we come back from Nate's interview. Welcome, Nate, to Strange Familiars. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty well.
Glad to have you, and I'm excited to get these stories from you. Now, your one email said that most of the stuff started post-COVID. Is that accurate?
Yeah, like had a right along with COVID. Like when COVID started, that's when everything started happening, weirdly.
It's interesting because there were a lot of people that were predicting there was going to be a huge surge in paranormal activity around COVID. I don't know whether I was doing, because I have MS and they didn't know what it was going to do with MS and everything. I was really quarantining in a major way. So I don't know whether it's because of that or other reasons. Like it seemed like it died down a little bit for me, at least. But again, I'm quarantining a lot. I'm not out there like I normally am doing stuff. But I've heard stories in both ways from other people. Yeah, it really amped up for them during the pandemic. And some people say, well, no change kind of thing. So it's interesting that it all starts with the pandemic.
Yes. I mean, for me, it really kicked off. And I think I didn't really have the option of isolating or being at home as a frontline paramedic.
That may be the key difference right there.
So it's like this incredibly sort of liminal, hectic, terrifying time to be alive.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I can't imagine what that... So again, especially at the beginning, we didn't really know what this thing was.
No, it was interesting. Like all the worst predictions, like really came to pass. Oh, there could be 1 million people die. But well, yeah, it turned out 1 million people did die.
Yeah.
So having that and kind of living through the beginning of it, because we didn't know every day you're going to work and you don't know if you're going to bring home a disease that's going to kill you or your wife or your kids.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just incredibly stressful. We lost a lot of people. We didn't lose, they didn't die. We had anybody who was eligible to retire. Like we had a guy who's great, been on the service for 30 years. And he was tired of isolating from his grandkids and retired. So we're getting short-staffed, we're working like crazy, constant changes. It was like the ultimate sort of liminal state.
Yeah.
I was in the field for a long time. I sort of began my career. I started about 9 months before 9/11. And as COVID ended, I wound up my career in the street after 22 years.
Wow.
So I sort of bookended it with two like big historical events, which is kind of interesting.
I'm not that familiar with, but I heard something recently that people don't tend to stay in that job a long time.
Yeah, it depends on where you are and it can be a hard job. It's not particularly high paying. There are good services around. I managed to land at an excellent one, but it takes some work and they're extremely competitive. Well, if you can find a spot to be in, it's hard on your body. It's hard on everything.
So you don't have to be exact with the location, but if you want to just give a sort of general area where this stuff was happening.
Well, yeah, I don't want to be super exact. I don't want to give it away. I think anybody who's local could probably figure out most of it, but to back up a little bit. What do you want to talk about the hairy man stuff now? Or do you want to do it later?
Let's do that later. Let's get your stories and then we can circle back.
Sure. Absolutely. So it's in central Texas.
Okay.
So if you ever listen to like Breath of the Serpent, they say that nestled amongst the dusty bones of an ancient seabed high atop the Edwards Plateau. Mm-hmm. I'm on the other side of the Edwards Plateau from them.
Okay.
Like the county we're in was bisected by sort of the change in topography and the landscape. And it's this gigantic, like Cretaceous and Jurassic uplift of an old seabed. It's this huge limestone escarpment that's 200-300 miles across.
Oh, wow.
Kind of forms the backbone of the hill country. So it's an odd place. I grew up in Southern California where I spent a lot of time in the High Sierra. I grew up next to the Cleveland National Forest. If anybody's familiar with that, it's like a big mountain range east side of Orange County. And I never felt like strange in the woods there. Never felt never felt weird. Texas, every time I go in the woods, it feels different here. I don't know how to explain it. Spent time in the woods in Ohio and Arkansas and all over California. Nothing quite like that. So February 6th was the first U.S. COVID death. And I was looking back to try to figure out exactly when this started. And I made a Facebook post. Actually, I didn't know where else to post this kind of stuff. So I posted it in the Strange Familiars Gathering. And it's all still there. If you want to find it, go back to February 8th, 2020. I realized I found this grove. That's when I posted about it. Just strange. I was walking through the woods. This is before anything has really started. Mm-hmm. Like lockdown happened about 6 weeks later. This is when everything's kind of ramping up. The news is getting strange. No one's sure what to do. And I was walking on a little single track trail. Some days I'd ride my bike on it. Other days I just hike. And I saw through like the cedar trees and elms, like a weird patch of some very like green growth grass. And this is February in Texas. It's cold here in the winter. And it's probably not Pennsylvania or upper Midwest cold, but like it's chilly. We get freezes and we get snow and everything does go dormant. It's the coldest place I've ever lived. Coming from like Los Angeles to anywhere else is the coldest place you'll ever live. And everything else is dead, but there's this patch of green. And I went and walked in there just because I was curious and found this open sort of space in the trees. And on one end, and again, there's pictures of if you want to see exactly what it looks like, there's what they call Texas Holy Rock. And it's not called Holy Rock because of any religious connotation. It's full of holes. It's old limestone, like shelves. So it's very perforated. And it's stacked up maybe a couple, like 2 feet tall with like a branch on top of it. And it's leaned up against a tree in this clearing. And on the other side of the clearing, directly opposite, there's another tree with a rectangular blaze cut about 7 feet off the ground. And in this grove at the 4 like cardinal points, and I didn't figure this out till later, but there's north, south, east, and west are all like right laid out on this little space. And it's definitely just sort of a strange kind of feeling place. I don't really know how else to describe it. It feels like old, and I've gone back there a lot, learned that later, but I would go back there all the time. It was just a strange place to be. I think I'll give you a little more background on me. I have a degree in anthropology, and I did a lot of specifically like archaeology. And there, what I think were probably some artifacts there, like some small hammerstones. It just felt like an old, weird place to me. And so I put that on the gathering on Facebook and sort of went home from there. And I would go back and every couple of days, I think I was working like a 24-hour shift. So I'd have like 24 hours on duty, then 48 hours off duty. And most of the time the kids are at school, my wife's at work. I got to find something to do, leash up the dogs and go for a hike. I'm lucky enough where these woods are like a mile from my front door. In Texas, that's pretty remarkable to have. Well, then March 13th, so the 13th, the stay-at-home orders are issued. And I'm still like, I figure the one thing I can probably do, where I'm not going to be exposed to anybody else, is go walk it in the forest.
Right.
So I'll back up a little bit. I had gone there, and one of the things I asked for, because this is just a strange feeling place, and I was like, man, this is just odd. And I want to, if there's really some out here, if there's like a Bigfoot thing, like I'm sort of sending this intention out in the universe, like I want to find bones. I've listened to your podcast probably since 2017. It's like, I want to find bones and Tim finds bones. That would convince me that there's something to this. I go out a few days later, and this is on there. I made up pictures of this stuff too on the gathering group. In the middle of this grove, there's a weird spiral growing in the grass. There's a very obvious, and it's not, you squint your eyes the wrong way, like there is a spiral of darker grass, like maybe someone had moved fertilizer, like sprinkled Miracle Grow and made this strange shape on the grass. Weirded me out. Didn't know what to think about it. I'm also wandering around, looked off the trail, find a blue mylar balloon. I'd gotten
You did
kind of pretty deep in the Hellier. This is all the same day.
Okay.
And I had asked for these bones, and I'm walking out on one of the trails, and there's a couple trails that kind of lead you back into where it's back toward my house. And I looked, and there's this like a deer. I'd have to look again. It was a deer like front leg, like the deer metatarsal and tibia, and I think the ulna that were on the trail, and they were gory. And I was like, wow, I'm going to leave that. Rather find something older. That's weird. I'm not saying this out loud. I'm thinking it to myself. Got my dogs with me on this day, had my kids with me, which is strange. I take them hiking too, right? They got to do something.
Sure.
They can't sit at home all day, and they deserve to be outside. And it's a nice spring day. And we walk another 15, 20 feet, and my dog steps like on the side of the trail and flips out this old, like dirt covered, ancient looking, I think a deer humerus under the middle of the trail, which I just stood there with my mouth open. Like, how is this is really odd. Like just the synchronicity thing.
Yeah, I know that feeling. It's
like
amazing and strange. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know what to think of this. And then it kept getting weirder. Like I went back, I thought that was strange. I'm sitting here just taking a minute to myself, like sitting on the ground in this little grove. Like the bones are weird, but that's the coincidence. Really show me I want to see some skulls. Like that would convince me that something is afoot here. And I walk out of the trail that day, and as I'm wandering around, and I'd always I didn't have a word for this. I talked to Nathan Isaacs about this, and there's this idea, he talks about it at Pennyroyal, about the derive, where these Parisian sort of mystics would walk around the city to explore in a different way and just follow their intuition.
Mm-hmm.
I would do that in the woods. I know you're not supposed to, but I just wander off the trail and just sort of see what I could see and just wander around places and sort of follow wherever the intuition took me.
Yeah.
Sort of, I don't know, maybe I was being fairy led, but maybe it was being fairy led. And under another strange, like a spiral connection, an old, almost like a bonsai tree, an old cedar tree. And they call them cedars. They're really like a small juniper. But the juniper tree would be more taxonomically correct, but we call them cedars here. And it's like growing in this weird spiral shape, like it had sort of branched and snapped off and it grew in a spiral, which is interesting. And underneath that spiral is another like blue, it wasn't a blue, it was like a happy birthday Mylar balloon.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what to think about that. That was weird. I was like, well, here we are. Things are getting interesting. I found another one of these balloons. What's going to happen next? And I'm walking out and I'm not far from, I can see the road from this point. Like I have to get back to the street and then walk up and sort of the edge of a subdivision. I look over to my right and in the low growth, all the previous year's high grass has died off and been kind of smashed down by the winter rain. And on top of the little new, the like late spring stuff, I could see 3 skulls, like almost in a little pile.
3 of them.
Sitting together. 3 of them. And this again, it's on the Strange Familiars group. They didn't have any antlers on them. It looks like they were cut to harvest the antlers to like make a mount. I don't know how long they were there for. I've never seen them before. And I left them. I took pictures. I was like, this is too much. I know you're not supposed to take stuff home. So I didn't. I took pictures and put the skulls back. I went back a few days later because I really should pick that up. And that'd be really interesting to see. And the skull, they were gone. I've never seen them again. Never able to find them again. I don't know if someone else saw them because they were pretty exposed at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't imagine that like I manifested the skulls or something weird like this.
Yeah.
And what could have happened?
So when you're sort of having this intention to find bones and skulls, are you announcing this out loud or is this just sort of an internal dialogue?
I think a little bit of both, but it was never, I'm not shouting and raising my hands, give me bones.
Right.
I was like, I'd maybe say, show me something and have this intention that's sort of internal.
Okay. Yeah.
I wasn't announcing to anybody. And I haven't shared this with very many people. I'll tell you who I did share this with. I've told most of this story at Strange Familiars in 2024. I've actually been at 3 of them. I got to know some of those guys. I'm sort of friends with it's fun to meet the greater Where Did the Road Go community of
Strange Realities.
Strange Realities.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
What did I say?
You said Strange Familiars, but from
Welcome to the show.
context, I knew what you meant, but for the listeners, I wanted them to.
Yeah, that's this show. Yeah, so into Strange Realities, that was just fascinating. As I told some people around the breakfast table at the hotel, you should tell Tim this story. And I was like, wow, maybe. I don't know how interested he'd be. But so it was an interesting breakfast, but it was fun. And it got weirder from there. So now we're like into March. It's April. Things are getting more and more odd. And I think the blue Mylar balloon, I figured out before I came out here that I had watched Hellier that fall.
Mm-hmm.
My wife's at work. My kids are at school. You need something to do during the day when you're off work. Amazon served up Hellier to me one day and it was off to the races. Absolutely fascinated by that show.
Mm-hmm.
And then to sort of starting to have these weird balloon synchronicities, it feels like you're all of a sudden like you're in the mix.
Yeah.
Like it is. Oh, this wasn't initiation. They're right. So all that stuff, I wouldn't believe somebody who told me that was happening, but that hadn't happened to me. Like I would think I would sort of be like, well, maybe that sounds pretty far-fetched.
Mm-hmm.
So I was walking out of the woods one night and I just sort of wandered back to the grove. I had earbuds in and I was talking to a coworker who happened to be like one of our infection control officers. And we were talking about what we're going to do, how we're going to handle this. What is the CDC saying now? What's the latest recommendation? What are we going to do? And we're still like, this is very early. This is pre any sort of vaccine or any sort of control. Everything's going nuts. I think this is probably about when New York has got trucks full of bodies in Central Park, like it was just the height. And I was talking to her. It was a rainy, cold, early April night. And I had stayed in the grove too long. This is the only time I've been in the woods at night at all I've done quite a bit of backpacking. This is the only time I've been in this little stretch of forest at night was this night. And I have both my dogs with me, or one of those dogs isn't with us anymore. And I realized it was now like properly dark, and there was no moon, and it was drizzling, and it was like 50 degrees. And I'm like, I should probably start making my way home. So I got off the phone with her, and then I remember clearly, like, where did the road go? Came back on in my AirPods.
Mm-hmm.
Right. This is probably even pre AirPods. This is like wired headphones days. It's 2020. And I'm walking out, and the single track sort of meets like a sort of a fire road on the trail network there. And I start to hear sort of over the podcast. I don't have it very loud. I usually don't listen to anything when I'm in the woods. I'd rather hear nothing at all.
Right.
I'll drown out the cars all day, but once I'm in the forest, I'm like, that's what I'm there for.
Yeah.
And I hear what kind of sounds like, I can only describe it like Eddie Vedder, like sort of that Pearl Jam style singing, like mid 90s jaw rock, whatever they call it. And I pull my earbuds out, and I'm like, what the hell am I hearing? And I'm not far from houses. Again, this is like one of those places that it's not far from anything. It's even more surrounded now by homes and growth. And this is like just a boom town, this area. And then from the other direction, so if I'm walking down the trail, I turned around 180 degrees. And so I'm facing north and up to about, I don't know, like my 2 o'clock is where I'm hearing Eddie Vedder. And then from the 10 o'clock, as that sort of dies down, and I don't hear it anymore, I'm like, well, that's strange. This super loud and deep howl, like louder than either of my dogs can make. And one of my dogs is like 110-pound big old mutt. I've never heard anything quite like this and that loud. Now, this is one of those places like I talked about. There's no way there's Bigfoots in these parks where people are seeing it. Like This is that place. There is no possibility that there would be this like giant Bigfoot there. Like I couldn't imagine a breeding population of Bigfoots living in this part of Texas. Maybe there's other parts. Maybe you can make a case in the Piney Woods. You're not going to do it just on the outskirts of Austin. And I stood there for a second, just sort of, again, like kind of like with the skulls in a pile, like gobsmacked that I was like, oh my God, like I really heard it. This is happening. And my dogs, especially the one of them, was pretty reactive. If a dog barks at him, like he's going to bark back. He wasn't very old at this point. He might have been almost 5. So he's a jumpy, still getting some puppy energy out. And both of them, him and the older one, just tucked their tails and started pulling me home. And I can't see anything. I can't tell what's going on around me. Like I'm just trying to stay out of all the big mud holes in the middle of this fire road. On the way in, I could do it. As it rained more, I was eventually just kind of just slogging down the trail as these dogs are dragging me out of there.
Wow.
And they were dead silent and pulled me home.
Huh.
I had no idea like what that could have been.
Yeah. And now the Eddie Vedder singing, do you think it was singing, or do you think it was like just some kind of vocalization? Did you get to hear enough of it without where the road go where you could sort of make that call?
It was faint and far away, and it really sounded more like to me like I was hearing music from someone's house that was far away. I had to guess what I was hearing. That seems like the logical conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
But it certainly sounded like something or someone yelling, and then it stopped. Like there was no more music. It didn't continue after the howl either.
Yeah.
But it sounded like it was indistinct. I couldn't make it out. It was far enough away where you couldn't make out the words.
Interesting. There's that stops, and then the howl though.
Yeah. And then it was just dead quiet, like silent.
Yeah.
And there could be wild dogs maybe that roam around. I know I found it had to be like a 300-pound dead hog.
Wow.
In winter back there. Whew. Went back 2 days later and it was just gone. They're just scratch marks in the dirt, or the vultures and the other pigs come and eat them.
Yeah.
So I mean, if something did die back there, I don't think you'd find much of it.
Right.
So that was definitely weird. About a month later, you know what? I'm sorry. I think I told some stuff out of order. The spiral tree was a little bit later. I did find a mile-air balloon with 3 skulls, but the spiral tree came in this next part.
Okay.
That's a little bit odd. I think I read ahead of myself. I made some notes and they betrayed me. So I found, this was what I found really interesting, was that someone else had been going here. Like clearly I didn't set up the rocks and set the pole across them.
Right.
Over the months when I would go there, and I'd go for a mountain bike ride and just pop in and just stand there for a second, say hello, and then leave. If the poles were knocked down or the rocks were knocked over for some reason, I would set them back up. I know that pigs were in there rather than on the trees. You find mud up about knee high on some of the elm trees. And obviously something was rooting around and pushing around, and sometimes the rocks would be knocked down and would always put them back up. And so clearly someone else had been to this place. I went there in early May. So I'm thinking this could be like what I found was two like cedar trunks, two cedar poles. And there's not a huge cedar trunk is not necessarily gigantic there. Maybe like big around as your arm or just like a pole. And they were tied together, woven together with woven grass.
Huh.
And then someone had stuffed a bunch of flowers. If anybody has an idea what this might be, again, you can go back to the Strange Meals Gathering group, May of 2020, and find the pictures of it. It looked like it had been there for a little bit because it had some wildflowers stuck between the two poles, and they're tied in an X between the two rock piles. There's no like horizontal pole anymore. And they're tied up with the various flowers and little bits of cedar in between the two poles, and like this, just woven with grass, nothing else. And that seems strange.
Yeah.
And I was certainly not alone there anymore. Or if I ever had been at all, I'm sure I wasn't.
Right.
I always wondered if someone was there. I looked around on Facebook groups and looked for Austin Wiccans and see if anybody had some sort of meetup or anything in the regional park. I never found anything. I just been some solo person who thought they were interacting with something strange. It was just me.
Yeah. I mean, that's always that outside possibility.
Yeah.
We often joke that we are doing whoops on one mountaintop, and then the next mountaintop over, there's a group of Bigfoot guys whooping back at us. We're all excited.
Yeah. But the cedar poles it was very strange. The thing that like stuck with me is it was woven together with natural like grass. It wasn't,
right.
They didn't tie it with string or anything like that. It was a weird faith thing. Like it's certainly unusual.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I should add that all this time, like every time I'd go out, if I was walking my dogs around my subdivision, when I asked for bones, like I found bones all the time.
That's amazing.
I took some home. I'd walk my dog down the subdivision and find like a bird's wing. I'd walk anywhere. I've got a couple deer scapulas. I have an ulna from a deer, but I'd find deers all over the place. And it was really odd. And so May is kind of like where it dies off in my like records that I had, well, the stuff that I posted on social media. I'm sure I was still going out and probably doing more bike riding. Problem in Texas is sort of June through late September. It's not a great idea to go like very far outside. You have to do stuff in the morning because it's going to hit 105, 110 degrees every day.
Yeah.
And some of these summers are hitting heat indexes like 120.
Oof.
Like you sort of have a hot winter. Like you stay inside in the summer and all winter you're outside hiking around doing stuff, having a good time.
Right. Which is me here as well.
Yeah. So it picks up in October. I went back out there for a long walk. And again, this is October 2020. So COVID's going like pretty hard.
Oh yeah.
We were coming to that fall. I think this Omicron or one of the variants that was killing everybody. Maybe it was Delta.
Yeah. It's
yeah,
a blur at this point.
I'm happy to forget.
Yeah. And I can't imagine how much of a blur it must be for somebody who was in the mix of it.
Yeah. Going out a lot, going out every day, just constantly. And then just sort of all this stress is building up. And this is sort of my outlet, was to go out and walk in the woods, leash up my dogs and head out and just walk. Or I'd air up my mountain bike, and I'm going quite a bit, like a couple times a week I'm out there, usually in the morning. And one day I went, and I feel like dogs have a different energy. Like things change when you have dogs with you.
Mm-hmm.
Or how it is when you have cats. I've never hiked with my cat, but with dogs, certainly they feel sort of like paranormal repellent. Like things are not as strange with them. And maybe just because you're in a different headspace, like you're paying attention to them and working with them and talking to them. And they're not very good conversationalists, but they keep me moving. I went out by myself this day, I'm sure. And I went for a long walk. Remember, my wife was annoyed with me. I was gone so long. And I walked up like way back to the other end of the park, back to where the private property starts. And I was just sort of wandering these trails, just turning whatever way I'd gone and trying to get lost pretty much. Just like trying to reset. It's finally cooled off, so you can be out there all day. The first thing I saw was like another Mylar balloon. And this is underneath a barbed wire fence, kind of on private property, half buried in like the juniper, the cedar duff. So it's kind of sticking out, this like shimmery, like blue and silver Mylar balloon. So I let that be there. So that I'm not going to shimmy under a barbed wire fence and try to get this Mylar balloon. It will stay. That's where it belongs. I left that there and I kept walking down through the woods. And there's these little tiny, like single track mountain bike trails. I don't know what they were before, but they're pretty frequented. There's a lot of people around. Every now and then I'll run into somebody else on them. When the weather's nice, you're going to see another person out there any day. But I'm out there, especially during COVID, because no one's at work. It was probably a little more crowded.
Yeah.
I bet now on a Tuesday, the park's empty, but I would have this place to myself. And I walked down the trail a little bit and I found this sort of like iridescent blue feather. I think it might've been like from a duck. Didn't look like a bluebird. It was sort of like one of those weird blue mallard feathers.
Mm-hmm.
So now I've got, this seems pretty prosaic right now, but I found this sort of odd feather to put in my pocket. Like, this is pretty an interesting thing. It's sort of a gift. And I walked a little bit further and I'm always kind of looking around, just looking at everything around me, trying to soak it in. And I'm also always looking for bones now. Maybe it's a Bader-Meinhof effect thing. Like, you're looking for the bones, you're going to find the bones.
Yeah, I'm sure that can be part of it.
Yeah.
Certainly.
And I found an odd, like an old deer vertebra that was full of dirt. And then I walked a little bit further and I picked that up too, put it in my pocket. I usually didn't take bones with me. And I kept walking and then I started veering off the trail. I'm having an odd day. I've seen the Mylar balloon. I know something more interesting might happen. That's how things have gone. I've had days where I would be back there. One of the weirder balloons I found was tied around a stump. I just was on the wander, just following my intuition, and found like a cedar. Well, I say a cedar stump. It's again, like the size of your arm, cut off about waist high, with a Mylar balloon like tied around the middle of it.
Huh.
Which was odd.
Yeah.
Again, like somebody else is out there at this place.
Yeah.
And I'm walking a little further back to the day in October, and I found like in a sunbeam sitting next to a tree, like a deer shed antler. I've never found one before, never found one since.
Yeah,
It's
they're
been a long
not
time.
common.
I'm not calling them.
Yeah.
And that I picked up too. So now I've got 3 of the 4 things with me. And I make it back down to the little grove, which was not that far from where I found any of these things. Like, this park is, I think it's 200 acres. It's not a gigantic wilderness area, but it's a nice little preserve. And I got there and I decided to leave the feather and the vertebrae at the little like altar space, I call it, in the grove. And I would generally sort of take a knee and just sort of reflect. Sometimes I just lay down on the grass, and if the grass wasn't too high, I wasn't afraid I was going to get bugs. Once it cools off, there's less of a, but I just sat there and relaxed and went home, and I took the antler with me. And I called one of my friends, one of my coworkers, who was sort of also, I talked to a little bit about kind of what I was experiencing, what I'd seen. And she pointed out to me like, well, I think someone's talking to you. You found all the elements. You found a balloon, like it looks like water. You found a feather for air, and you found a vertebrate full of earth. And she asked me, before she told me that, she said, was the deer antler like sitting out in the sun? I was like, it was. It was like, was pointing up, like it's kind of like fire. I was like, oh, man, I don't know if I'm overfitting the data here, but it certainly felt,
Yeah.
it felt like not a lot,
Yeah.
especially in that time. And it's just this odd connection to these woods and these bones and everything else is hard to make sense.
Yeah. And well, for anyone, and I use Hellier as a gauge for this sometimes too. One of the biggest critiques of season 1 of Hellier was it's just a tin can. And admittedly, the first time I watched it, I was, about that, right? That particular finding. And then I thought about it some more, and I thought about all the things I've found that have been meaningful to me. And then I thought, yeah, you weren't there, meaning me. I wasn't there. I didn't experience that. I didn't experience the Estes session before predicting it. I didn't experience all the things they've done. And then it hit me as, oh yeah, I'm being like every skeptic in the world and just dismissing it. And then it hit me. It's like, oh yeah, it's not about you. It's not about me. It's about them and their journey. And then I started to put myself in that place of like, when these things happen, and that feeling is really indescribable. If you've never felt it, I cannot describe it to you. And once you feel it, you know it again. Again, you'll get it's the hair stands up a little bit. It's exciting. I cannot describe it. It's incredibly addictive. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it is.
And this isn't me insulting people who've never felt it. It's me trying to tell them, try to understand that when you're in the mix of this, a Mylar balloon in the right place is a really interesting symbol. And it's more than, oh, look, I've found Mylar balloons that I think are probably just fell down from the sky, right? Somebody had another birthday party. They fell down from the sky. But when I find a Mylar balloon on Toad Road and take 2 steps later and find a pig skull when there aren't pig farms around there, and it's got a bullet hole in it, and it references some story that I never published from 1909 that only I know about, it's a whole different story. And when you start finding them in meaningful places and in meaningful ways, then it's, well, there's something going on here. And Mylar balloons were a thing before Strange Familiars started talking about them, before Hellier started talking about them. They've been a thing for a while. They just weren't really publicized before then. So it's interesting. Like, all of this is very interesting. And to those who haven't been in the mix with this, I think it's easy to dismiss. Well, it was just a balloon. Well, but what else happened around it?
Yeah. Well, that stuff, when it clicks, it feels, it's totally surreal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just finding that stuff together was sort of an odd day. And when someone pointed out, like, hey, those are all related.
Yeah. It's
like,
interesting to find.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And again, one thing after another, but that's important too. It's not just, I found a vertebrae one day, and 3 weeks later I went back and found a balloon in a different place. And it's about the series of events too.
And I was walking it pretty routinely. These are the times that strange things happened, right? Kind of like you talk about when you go out, sometimes you do a recording and nothing happens.
Sure. Yeah.
This is sort of like that survivorship bias. Like the times that I went out there and bizarre stuff happened, like it was really bizarre. It's hard to explain. I can keep going too. It just kept happening.
Is it still occurring, this kind of stuff?
Yeah. Sunday. But what is it? It's Tuesday now. So 2 days ago, a couple of years later. So we can jump way ahead up to 2024. I had anything really bizarre.
In this interim, you're still occasionally finding things, and things
They're finding bones.
Okay.
I never found other deer antler.
Mm-hmm.
I think well after this is when I found a full deer ulna.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's used kind of the radius and ulnar fused together in a deer. I was out there probably kind of less and less. Like eventually by January 2023, I took an office job. So I'm no longer have these days to kill, and COVID's kind of over. Things have slowed down. And I felt that too. Like things have definitely changed. That strangeness was gone. Like that thing that the hair in the back of your neck standing up.
Mm-hmm.
The trips out there were more just, I need to get some exercise. Oh, I found a bone. I didn't see him all the time. As 2020 kind of faded and as the insanity kind of faded out, so did like exactly how strange this was.
It's interesting.
But I'd get reminders.
Strange Familiars is brought to you by our patrons. Thank you, patrons. We could not do the show without you. If you like Strange Familiars and you'd like to help us make the show and get extra content besides, you can become a patron at Patreon. It's patreon.com/strangefamiliars. All of our patrons get commercial-free versions of the weekly shows, plus extra episodes. We do at least one full extra episode of Strange Familiars every month for our patrons. Sometimes we do more. For more information, go to patreon.com/strangefamiliars. Our Patreon patrons also get to participate in an ongoing paranormal experiment. And we've been doing live streams as regards to that. For more information, again, go to patreon.com/strangefamiliars. There's also an option via Apple Podcasts. The program there is called Patron of the Strange. Our Apple Podcast subscribers get the commercial-free shows weekly and the extra shows monthly as well. Very soon, we'll be adding memberships on YouTube. So please subscribe to the channel on YouTube. You were just at Strange Familiars on YouTube. Subscribing is free, but then if you want to become a member on YouTube, we'll be adding memberships there soon. And our YouTube members will get the extra shows monthly as well. And thanks to all of our patrons, no matter where they're signed up, it is a massive help. Thank you.
So fast forward a couple of years now. I'm no longer in the woods all the time, but my son had joined a Boy Scout troop, and I sort of ended up joining a Boy Scout troop. I'm an outdoors guy. I've camped and hiked all my life. I fished and did all this stuff. And we hadn't been in very long. We go out camping at this big, like this giant parkland, not too far away. And we're doing we're supposed to do like a geocaching camp. Well, I'll tell you, the camps, the trip is supposed to be for like their geocaching merit badge. So they're out like off trail, hiding boxes to find for the other kids. Everybody had to hide one, everybody had to find one as a whole event. That night I'm there, we overbooked some of the sites, so we had extra ones. And I took one of the sites, just got it by myself, sort of off in a little space. And I felt like that energy, right? Like that strange feeling was sort of back. I don't know how to explain it. I'd never been to this place before except to scope out the campground and make reservations. And I heard what sounded like something small running across the ground. Like I almost threw my tent, and it whipped my head around, startled me. I didn't know what to think about it. I'm like, well, that was a strange thing to happen. And I look at my tent, and right in the middle of the tent, and it could have been this rolling. It was like a perfect large acorn cap. It was right in the middle of the tent. Huh. And I'm like, well, that's weird. Like, how'd that get there? And just probably the acorn cap. Don't freak out. You're all by yourself in the dark in a weird place. Let's just relax and go to bed. And I did. It went just fine. Everything was great. The next morning, we're taking the kids out, and it's a cold morning where it's February. Everybody's all got their jackets on, walking around through these bushes. And it's pretty hilly here. They're right on the edge of the hill country. And it's not mountains. It is certainly hills, but there's up and down. And we go around, the kids go around some of the cedar trees, the juniper trees. And there is a full-on like pig skull, like a great big like boar skull sitting on top of an argarita bush.
Oh, wow.
Just sort of a weird thorny native bush.
Yeah.
The jaw is down on the bottom, like around the main like trunk of the bush. And it's 4 feet in the air. And the bush is growing through this big old pig skull. This is not on the gathering group. You won't be able to find it. Actually, I sent it to you just because I thought it was so insane that I found this. I don't know who to tell. I was like, I think I'd listened to your show the night before. It was like, I'll send this to Tim Renner on Instagram. I didn't know what to think of it. We left it there. The kids like pulled it out of the bush. We all looked at it, put it back. A few months later, I went back just with my two sons for a camping trip over our spring break. And we hiked all over this place with my dog. We put 12 miles in one day. We're just all over the whole park and went out to this. There's a couple of like 500+ live oak trees. So these giant spreading southern live oaks, so they're escarpment live oaks, a species here. And I look under one of the roots, and I don't know how no one has found it, but there is a little fox skull with it looked like a 22 bullet hole through the front of its head.
Oh, wow.
Like under a tree root. I'm still finding this stuff.
Yeah.
And it was sort of just a reminder, a tap on the shoulder that like, we're still here.
Yeah.
We're still going. And that was in 2024. And they jumped right to today, or I guess on Sunday. Well, in June, I went out hiking again, and I was thinking like, man, I went out to the Grove, and I had my dogs with me. It was sort of just before summer, so I haven't been out since June. So in June, when I went out to this place, I just sort of, again, was following and looking for a trail that I thought I knew, but I've been out there so little. I'm not out there every other day anymore, or twice a week. But I walked around through back into the old quarry area, and there's lots of limestone. So there's these old quarries too that are probably from like I don't know how old they are. They could be from the 18th century. Certainly probably not modern.
Yeah.
I should also note that not far from where I am, from where the land is, one of the largest limestone quarries in the country.
Okay.
It's gigantic. Like train loads of crushed stone come out of this place every day. It shakes the neighborhoods around it when they do the blasting. The largest explosive manufacturing plant in the country is in Georgetown that supplies this mine to do the blasting there. So there's lots of digging in the ground not far away.
Yeah.
From all this stuff. I walked around to this quarry, and there's a gigantic pile of brush. I'm like, oh, this is the county park. This is where the county's dumping all this brush. Mm-hmm. I look around a little more, and there are obviously like pig and deer carcasses. So I think the county is probably, I don't have anybody to verify this with. I probably could figure it out, but I think they're dumping like roadkill in the area.
Yeah.
Back in this back area.
Yeah.
This is not particularly far from the place that I was finding all the bones. Mm-hmm. So for me, it was like, is this sort of a prosaic explanation of what I'm finding?
Yeah.
But the deer skulls that have been harvested, and maybe you could explain like the ulna, and some of the other stuff, but like some of it was pretty far away from this. I imagine scavengers could scatter some of this stuff, but by and large, most of it's pretty whole.
Right. Yes.
Pigs are going to eat the bones.
Animals drag stuff around. Squirrels love bones. Squirrels love to chew on bones.
Yeah.
But again, consider the situations you find things in.
Yeah.
Of all the skulls I found, every single one of them, you could say, well, that was a coincidence, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when I start putting together, no, like this was happening a lot. And specifically when I was doing paranormal things, it sort of changes it. And one of the places that I found a pretty meaningful skull was it was two skulls it was a black one and a white one. And they were arranged like the yin yang symbol.
Oh, wow.
And I followed it into the middle of this place, and it was very much sort of looked like they were set there on purpose with it cleared around it. And this was in a place where people dump roadkill. So yeah, does it count? To me, it did, because it was a meaningful, I was led there not because I knew there was roadkill there. I was led there for another reason. I forget if I heard a sound or if I was following something back. I forget exactly why. And then I come upon this arrangement of these skulls that were like, how often have I found a black skull once in my life? I don't know if it was mildew or mold, or I don't know what made it black. It wasn't spray paint. It was naturally very dark, not dead black, but very dark. And then it was just odd. It was an odd thing. So yeah, I mean, if you want to say, well, they were just there because that's where they dump roadkill, I can't argue it, but I can say that wasn't my feeling.
Yeah, I didn't really know what to do with it. It was just sort of this odd place where I found, and there was maybe what I could see, and a lot of them still had fur on them, like the pelts were still there, but all the meat was gone. You could tell the coyotes had found them, and the raccoons and whoever else.
Yeah.
Most of the skeletons were pretty intact. There were spines and ribs. The whole things were there. I don't think I've ever found ribs out there. I've only found like long bones, which is odd.
Yeah.
Most bones in the body are ribs and vertebrae, right?
Yeah.
There's like only a couple long bones. But I'm walking out and I'm thinking to myself as I'm leaving, gosh, is there like really an explanation for all this stuff I experienced years ago? Because this is this year. And the bones it was just this roadkill. And I'm walking out of the park and I looked down and found this chunk of the end of, I think it was the end of the femur. It looked like to me. I took a graduate class in animal bone taphonomy, like in faunal analysis of that's can identify stuff. And I had to learn lots of human anatomy. I think it's the end of the femur. And it was just a little chunk of it, like it would easily fit in your hand. It wasn't very big. And it sort of said to me, like, this is certainly not a piece of roadkill. This was a big animal. It was probably a cow bone. Maybe, I mean, it was big enough to have been a person or something. It was certainly not a pig or a deer.
Okay.
It was a big, old piece of bone. And I was like, well, holy crap. There's that little message like, well, not all the bones are from the roadkill.
Right.
Like, there's other stuff out here too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, oh gosh. So I put that back and just sort of left it. And this is in June. And I walked home and just sort of was scratching my head, didn't know what to think about it. I went back out to that grove because it was, I guess it was the day before the equinox. It was September 21st, right? I assumed it was the changing of the seasons were there, right?
Yeah, I think
So
so.
I went on Sunday.
Somewhere around there. I don't know.
And astronomically, the equinox was on the 22nd. Normally, on or about the 21st.
Right. Yeah. I always put it.
So I went for a long hike, got really hot, but I went out to this grove, the same place I hadn't been in a little while. And in the intervening couple of years as I went out there, and I didn't go out there as often as I did, I had watched Grant Morrison stuff. I heard, I think on your show, Albert Osmond Spare, like with the idea of sigil magic, like how to make a sigil. I started researching that. And so I designed one myself, right? I made my own sigil. And I may have been someone's weird Bigfoot stick sigils because I would go to this grove and find some sticks and I would make like my symbol out of the sticks underneath that altar space. And I would try and put my energy into it. And it was just for healing. That's all I wanted. It was like for me, for everybody. There had been so much trauma, like so much had been going on.
Yeah.
That I would sort of imbue this thing. I went back and it had been a few months since I'd been there. And I kind of brushed around and found the sticks I'd used last time. Like obviously it would have been there for a while. And I realized I looked over and right next to the little altar space, there was an old like army surplus shovel. You could read, it said U.S. Army. It was the kind where you can, there's a little handle you can spin.
Mm-hmm.
and it'll rotate down. You can flip the shovel part like a little entrenchment tool.
Yeah.
There was one of those just sitting there. And I picked it up and played with it, put it back down. I was like, well, that's weird. It's a little bit different from the woven like cedar poles. But here again is something strange. And it looked like no one had been there since I'd been there. Maybe this guy had been there and left a shovel for some reason. Or who knows who it was. And some of the rocks had been knocked over, and I picked everything up and put it back. Sort of hooked my dogs up to one of the trees and put the rocks back, stacked them up, put the pole back across them, set it the way that the way it was when I first found it. I never did anything extra. I just put it back. Remade the sigil, and I looked down on there's like an offering stone, right? So there's the two piles of rocks to pull across, and in front of them, there's another piece of holy rock. And I would occasionally leave things there. Like sometimes I'd leave half a cigar and go out and smoke a cigar on the way and just leave the tobacco, sort of share it with the woods, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at the pictures I took of the bone I found, because I try and document this kind of stuff just for me, of the bone I found in June. And I think the bone I found in June was sitting on that rock this time.
Oh, wow.
I'm almost certain it was the same bone. So I don't know if someone else is experiencing something similar to me or is approaching this place in the same way.
Right.
And it's just like, how do you make sense of it? Or is it the other? Is it manifesting there? Is it am I playing chess with somebody?
Right. I mean, I'm getting the same feeling as my chessboard. And I was fully thinking it was a person until that day I went back 10, 15 minutes after, and there's a giant leaf under the stack of stones I just put there.
That's crazy.
I had not, no way, no how had I done that. And that's when it really, I mean, I was literally like looking around the woods. Who's watching? Who's here? So.
And it was just the oddest thing.
Yeah, it has that feeling. It really has that feeling. I feel like there's got to be ways to test it. And I don't know.
I don't know if I want to test it. I don't know. Just take it on just what it is, what it appears to be, and let it go.
That's probably the safest way.
Yeah.
And just to let it be what it is. But yeah. Well, see, you were going before during the day.
No, I always went during the day. The one time I got caught out in the dark was rare. That was the only time that happened there.
Yeah. Like during weekdays, I meant you were going before.
Yeah, usually weekdays. And I mean, that time I saw one guy, this is on Sunday morning. I saw one guy on a mountain bike, and that was it.
Mm-hmm. And then...
And that was it. And some days I go out there, be totally dead.
Yeah.
Other days I go out there, and it just felt absolutely charged.
So now you have more of a standard job. I'm guessing you're there after work and weekends kind of thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm just saying, if there's another person, you'd think at some point you'd run into him.
Yeah, I would love to.
Yeah.
I mean, someone brought a shovel there. Something brought a shovel.
Something brought a shovel there. Yeah.
Yeah, somebody...
A shovel was there that was not there previously.
Somebody did some sort of interesting Beltane or ritual and tied those sticks together with woven grass. Something is...
Yeah.
It's an interesting place. Like, it certainly has an energy to it. When I was changing careers, I went out there. I went out to this grove and was just sort of trying to figure out what I was going to do and like how I was going to do this. And I'd always gotten the impression there that I needed to leave something behind. And I was standing in the grove and I was about to leave, and I got this impression like I wasn't done yet. It was not time for me to leave the grove. And I needed to leave something behind. And I don't know, I got this impression that this is like, it sounds insane saying this out loud. I've only ever thought it, but saying out loud that I got like this psychic impression sounds bonkers to me. Like, I'm a staid guy. I have a very serious job. It seems crazy. But I got this impression that what I needed to leave behind and what I needed to let die was part of me and like how I saw myself.
Huh.
And I had this identity, like who I was. I've done a couple other side jobs, but the paramedic thing has always been such a gigantic part of how I saw myself and like who I saw myself as. People said, "Oh, you're not your job." Well, some people are their job and they don't have a problem with it. I think a lot of paramedics, like, they're paramedics and that's what they want to be.
Right.
And they don't have any sort of misgivings about the cost of that job and the toll it takes on everything. I didn't realize the toll it was taking on me until I left that part of me behind.
Mm-hmm.
And I was stepping out of that forest and hitting like kind of the line of trees around the clearing And I realized like what it was trying to tell me. And I just broke out into tears.
Oh, wow.
And I knew that like it was time to leave that part of my life behind and move on to the next thing.
Huh.
It was incredibly like cathartic, like interesting place. And I don't know if this is a place that's communicating with me or if it's a place that allows me to communicate better with myself.
Right.
But either way, the effect is the same.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are places that just resonate with us for some reason.
And it does.
Yeah. There are certain places. I mean, for me, that Witch Digger's Ditch in Indiana, I mean, I haven't been there in a while. Been since June. And I don't have a visit scheduled right now. And I'm itching to get back there. And that's all the only, I love the whole area and the people are lovely people. But the only thing I want to be is down in that Witch Ditch area. That's the place I want to be night and day. And I get this feeling like just call it back there. And to the point where I'm like, it's on the same parallel. It's a little south of us. And I'm just like, I'm looking to move north because I want more cold weather, basically. But if an opportunity came up for a cabin or something there, it'd be hard to turn it down. I'll say that.
You know what's weird? It just occurred to me. So I told you like I would hike with my kids and we'd swing by there and just sort of check it out and look at the rocks and be like, oh, this is a cool place. Like it's pretty here.
Mhm.
And we'd go mountain biking and just dump the bike to the side of the trail. And this place is about 20 feet off the main trail. And the name that we gave this place was the Witch's Grove.
Oh, interesting.
Well, do you want to go let's go by the Witch's Grove. Like my kids were like, yeah, let's go by there.
Cool.
They know where it is. They know what it is. Or maybe they don't know exactly what it is. If listen to this, they will. But they knew like they'd been through there before. Like my kids were with me the day I found the strange spiral growing in the grass.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing worth noting is you mentioned this place there are houses around. It's not remote wilderness.
It's front country at best. It's a park.
Site 7, Gazoo's Woods, very similar. And we've had some of our most intense things happen there, and it's what is going on here? Because in one direction we're seeing weird lights, we can turn around and look at a house in the other direction. You know what I mean? There are houses there now. It isn't a development per se, but there's farmhouses and other houses, and you're certainly driving through a neighborhood to get to it, that kind of thing. So and that bothered me early on in this because I was like, no, why is this stuff happening here? You need to be way out in the middle of nowhere. And then I've just had so many experiences. You don't have to be that far at all. Whatever this stuff is, I don't know. It just requires a little bit of woods, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how it works.
I don't know what we're interacting with.
Yeah.
Or if we're just interacting with ourselves.
Could be. I mean, some of our most intense experiences have been these places where you can, like I said, you can turn around and see the lights of a house, at least distantly, but they're there.
But it's that thing that, like you said, it's not necessarily finding the stuff or seeing it's having it in proximity to like putting out an intention to find it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like within the same hour.
Yeah.
The part that I just stood there sort of my mouth open. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
I don't have any really, besides some childhood stuff, I don't really have any wilderness experiences like that in California. And again, I've done big week-long trips in the High Sierra. I grew up next to the national forest. I was out in the woods all the time. Nothing weird ever.
Yeah.
Nothing at all.
I grew up on a farm. I was the youngest of 6 kids. My older siblings did not want to play with me. I was a bummer. So I went out into the woods literally almost every day.
Yeah.
Rain, snow, it didn't matter. I was out in the woods. And as a very young child, like I said, I had a very protective dog that was with me all the time. And different time too, the 70s. The parents were a little, plus I was number 6. My parents were numb at that point. Each kid's like a brick. And by the time number 6 comes, they're pretty numb. But no, I spent from a very young age, all through my teenage years, I spent a ton of time in the woods. And I can't name one weird thing that happened to me growing up on that farm. And I would wander all day long. No trespassing signs meant nothing to me as a child. I would just go get lost. I'd find my way back eventually and do it again the next day. And I can't think of one particularly weird thing that happened to me. and in the
I was
woods.
usually with a gang of scrappy kids in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So a little bit later, but we were always out in these ravines and canyons. I took my mom there because again, it's all within walking distance. You're a kid. Later, and it became like a wilderness park. And she was like, "You were out here when you were like 9 years old, with just like other 9-year-olds." Yeah. Every day after school, this is where we'd come.
Yeah.
So we're going to the ravine. This is where we were. She was horrified.
Yeah, and I was fine.
Yeah.
I didn't break a bone until I was much older.
Yeah, I survived.
Yeah, I was climbing rocks and jumping over things I shouldn't have jumped, jumping down. I would jump from trees that there's no way. I don't know. I had this idea that because of movies that if you just rolled when you hit the ground, you'd be fine. I would climb up trees and get to the point where you're too scared to climb down. So I'd just jump from like massive heights and I'll just hit the ground and roll. It's like I was fine, but it's crazy. A lot of crazy stuff. Kids are durable, I suppose.
Yeah.
So should we talk about Hairy Man Road?
We could. I tell you about one other weird thing that sort of happened in this milieu.
Oh, please
sort
do.
of,
Yeah.
Sort of interesting. I wish I knew exactly when this happened, just so I could put it in the context of all these other things, because I have real dates here.
Mm-hmm.
It's not super important. So I had read, I got The Phenomena by Annie Jacobson, or The Phenomena, whatever it is.
I'm not familiar.
Do you know Annie Jacobson is the writer?
No, I'm not familiar.
She wrote Operation Paperclip.
Okay.
She wrote about Area 51. She had a really interesting book.
Okay.
It's one of the controversial ones where she had the take that it was the Soviet, the whole Stalin trying to scare the United States, was the Roswell incident type thing.
Yeah,
She's that author. She wrote a really interesting, it's a hefty book. It's got to be 500 pages about the U.S.'s secret spying program. And it's an interesting book. What I think she goes into a little bit is the Monroe Institute and like the Hemisync tapes. And I read that and did more research on the Hemisync tapes. I think I heard someone on maybe Conspiranormal talk about it or something. So I went on YouTube and sure enough, I found like the Hemisync tapes. And you can listen to the original like 1970s Monroe Institute, like Men Who Stare at Goats, like full on, like this is what they were doing for remote viewing stuff. I didn't try to do remote viewing. I just put them on. And again, this is like during COVID and I'm sure just processing all these things. And I put it on some nice earbuds and laid down and started the Hemisync thing. And I was laying there and I don't know, I have a hard time talking about this without getting choked up because it's one of those more real than real things. So excuse me if I do. But I was suddenly in like a room. Then my father and my brother were there. And I think my sons were there. And both of my deceased grandfathers were there. And they both stood up and walked to me and shook my hand. And my grandfather died when I was 6, who I was like, he was my favorite person in the world. And he was taken by cancer when I was a little kid. But he was there too. And I remember this extraordinarily clear image, like it was a real thing, that I walked up and hugged him and told him I had so much to tell him. And I buried my face in his wool sweater. And I could feel like the scratchiness of it. And I can recall it clearly right now.
Wow.
And I had my face like buried in his shoulder. And all of a sudden this like bright light came out and I was like snapped back into laying in my bed. And the tape was winding up. I was like, thank you for joining the Monroe Institute.
Wow.
And I'm just laying there with tears streaming down my face. What the hell was that?
Wow.
Like I was completely unprepared for where this was going to go. Like I've had other experiences that may have been otherwise influenced, and this was completely different. And it was very bizarre. I've tried some other of those, like the binaural beats, like nothing even close.
Yeah, I was going to say that. And did you try that particular tape again?
No, I wasn't able to find it again. It was like a YouTube video and I don't know where it went, but it was really strange.
That's interesting.
And about maybe a week later, I had an extraordinarily vivid dream. And I have another experience that's similar, but I was in my bed and I rolled over and there was sort of sitting like on sort of a stool, like idly thumbing through a book next to my bed, was essentially like a gray alien-ish sort of being. And it was like idly thumbing, like flipping through a book. And behind him, next to my bed, there's like maybe like a 5-foot gap. And then 2 big bookcases, like full of books. Some of them are paranormal. I went pretty hard on this stuff during the early COVID. Like I have a lot of the books. It's kind of why I went to Stranger Realities. I was like, oh, I can meet Adam Go Rightly. That'll be awesome. And it was cheap. Flying during COVID was super cheap. So we went to, anyway, I'm laying there and I roll over and this being looks at me. And behind my bookcase is not the wall of my room, but it's like the wheeling, like space, just this turning stars, just infinite.
Wow.
And it looks at me and it says, so you understand that we can manipulate time and we are everywhere and we are anywhere. And I looked and I was like, okay, but like, how are you in my consciousness? And sort of looked up and snapped the book close. And it said, but that you're not ready to understand. And then I snapped awake and I pointed the other direction, like looking at my wife who's sound asleep and just absolutely terrified to roll back over.
Wow.
And I rolled over and there's just like my telescope and my bookcases and a laundry basket and nothing else. And the
Wow.
dog sleeping at my feet. And it was just, and I don't think I've ever had any dreams quite that real.
Yeah.
And they were in that proximity to the Monroe thing. I don't know if it was related, but it was just like, oh my God.
That's so interesting.
It was really bizarre. I had another great experience when I was much younger. I could go on out if you want.
Yes, please. You can't just mention it and leave it like that.
Oh, right. So and again, it was sort of dreamlike. Like I followed the dream logic. I had a friend whose parents were pretty well to do. They had a nice house on the lake in Orange County, California. And they would go, his mom was from England. So they would go back to England pretty routinely. And he had an older brother that was probably 12, 15 years older than us. So this guy's in like his mid 30s and we're 16, 15 years old. He was a bad influence. Leave it at that. He was willing to stun our parties. And we would, even before that, this is when we were younger, we weren't quite partying yet. We'd just stay up late and play Dungeons and Dragons or Battletech or whatever nerdy tabletop game we'd all play together. And we'd all stay at this friend's house and we'd have half of our team we were on would all just be asleep in like one room on different beds, just on the floor, that's exhausted from playing games and drinking Mountain Dew all night. And one night I remember, I don't know how I got to this place, but I remember in that room, I was sure that we were in some sort of a box and I saw a gray, like looking around. And when I say gray, don't think like the Whitley Strieber drawing, but more humanoid, but certainly somewhere between the two.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see its hands around the door and it was looking at us and watching us. And I was certain that we were on some sort of trip somewhere. And I was just absolutely terrified and sure this thing was watching us and monitoring us and that we were in some sort of abduction scenario. And I was holding my knees to my chest, kind of rocking back and forth. And one of the other guys like woke up and was like, dude, are you okay? And he said, I just kept saying that we were in a box. That became like a joke. Like they had to read a box for years.
Yeah.
They would joke about this weird experience where I was sort of this like hypnagogic, hypnopompic dream or something, or I don't know what I had experienced, or maybe I wasn't supposed to see in that place, or I was just in the wrong place, or whatever happened. But I was certain I saw this thing, and I didn't wake up like laying down asleep. I was sitting up, like talking with my eyes open, and sort of snap back to a reality, or at least
Yeah, I've done that.
another realization of what was happening.
Yeah. Wow. Did the earlier gray and the later gray, did they look similar?
No, the first one was definitely more, I would say, closer to the pop fiction idea.
Okay.
The later one was wrinkly. I'd imagine people say, oh, the grays are that's their spacesuit they're wearing.
Yeah.
The later guy would have been like not wearing a spacesuit,
Okay. Huh.
sort of wrinkly and big headed and sort of, I don't know, almost sort of Caucasian colored, but loose, kind of flabby skin,
Huh.
sort of decrepit looking,
Wow.
wizened. We'll say wizened.
Huh.
I don't know how to make sense of it.
Yeah.
But
No,
those
I
are-
don't.
Those are the great experiences.
Wow. Yeah. Have you seen a UFO?
No, I don't think so. I think everything I've ever been able to see, I've seen stuff and I was like, holy, there it is. And then I went and looked like, oh, it's a SpaceX second stage lighting off. That was just a rocket.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I've never seen anything that I was unequivocally, I mean, I'd love to.
Yeah.
It's hot here, right? Like it's, as we're talking, it's 9:15 in September and it's 87 degrees out.
Yeah.
So I normally walk my dogs late at night, like 9 or 10,
Mm-hmm.
just to get me and them some exercise. And I'm always looking up. I'm always looking for something. I'm hoping there's something. I go camping at least like once a month. I'm looking for something up there, but I've never seen anything I couldn't just really explain. I've never seen any weird things that that could be a satellite or It's moving in a weird direction. I've never seen it. For wood knocks, I've never seen anything else. The wood knocks is a weird story, but that's another Texas thing.
Oh yeah.
Laying in tent one night in a campground and heard, like out in the Lockpine area of Bastrop, there's this giant like loblolly pine forest sort of east of Austin. And I woke up at 2 a.m. and I was like, I'll be damned. Like those are wood knocks. It was just like that. There's probably some Bigfoot enthusiasts a mile or two away, but it was the weirdest thing.
Wow. Yeah.
I don't know if they're wood knocks, but I was laying in the woods and heard something clapping or clacking together late at night, rhythmically. But I'd love to see UFO. And I think that's dangerous, right? Like, how can you be objective if you want to see the result?
Mm.
It's like a scientist want to see a giant squid. Maybe it doesn't mean the giant squid's not real.
Yeah. Yeah. True. The sort of fear reaction or fear response you had to the grays, do you think that was just because, wait, there's something weird here that shouldn't be here? Or do you think there's something else going on there?
I don't know. That's the only memory I have. I don't have anything deeper or more to it. I think maybe that seeing that there's something that was there that shouldn't be there might have been the scary thing. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
The second one, I wasn't afraid. I was just having a dialogue or kind of talk to me. And then I had the presence of mind to ask it a question. And then I was awake.
Huh. Yeah. I've been spoken to, but I have not spoken anything to them except the Hail Mary to make them go away. So it's interesting. I wonder if I could have presence of mind to have a conversation. I should maybe try if it happens in the future. We'll see. I hope it doesn't. To be honest, I hope I don't.
True.
If I never see them again, that's fine.
Yeah.
If it does, I do have some questions I should ask them. Wow.
Yeah, right.
Amazing. So, Nate, if you heard the patron show with Clint and I said someone on Instagram sent me this Hairy Man Road story, that was Nate. So, you live not far from this Hairy Man Road.
No, not too far at all. He sounds like Clint's friend was. I can picture about where he was. It's not very far away at all. If he's right up against Brushy Creek, you can see the road. Most of the road runs right along the creek. Brushy Creek kind of runs up just outside the park boundary of the area I was talking about earlier. So this is all the same region.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Hairy Man legend is sort of, I can't find anything old about it. I looked at some old maps. The oldest map I found that shows where there is a road there, and it shows like improved road or is a metallized road, which is like that's what they called a road that was like made with crushed stone, like a gravel road. They used to call it a metallized road because they would crush down the gravel with metal.
Okay.
And then 1931, there's a map that shows that road where Hairy Man Road should be. That's what I could find online. I could do more research and probably look down at a university at some old maps, but that's the nearest I could find.
Right.
Before that, I can't find any mention of the road. Doesn't mean there wasn't a trail called Hairy Man Road there.
Right.
There's some that didn't make a map because there weren't really road maps, like map of small, like backcountry roads like that 100 years ago. They just didn't exist.
Yeah. It's when I did the Toad Road research. I mean, you go back so far and you can see there's a road there, and there's no names on these maps for roads back then. And then at some point they start giving them numbers. Like here it was like T945 would be the name of the road. It's what?
Yeah.
And it's not till, I don't know when the names start popping up. I think actually, at least in Pennsylvania, I think it's not until the late 60s, early 70s where you actually see the road names on the map.
Mm-hmm. So the legend of the Hairy Man is that at some point, some settlers moving west, for one reason or another, lost Small Boy. There's one that he was bounced out of the back of a wagon on a bumpy road, and they didn't realize till miles and miles later. There's another story that I was a little bit sort of prescient given recent events that they were separated during a Texas flash flood around Brushy Creek. And anyway, so this young boy becomes separated. And this is a very rural area at that, especially like in the early 19th century, there was not much. It was just oak and scrubland. And this kid apparently was raised like by the wolves and the bears in the area, and he outgrew his clothes, and he was just covered in his long and unmanageable body hair. And he decided that he didn't want anything to do with humans, and he was going to protect Brushy Creek and make it like his place. And the story goes that he would hang out on Hairy Man Road and startle people. And one of the things he would do was drag his feet on the tops of the carriages and leave marks just to startle people to keep them away from the creek area.
That's a very interesting
Isn't that
detail.
a weird detail?
Very interesting.
So he's sort of this like wild man, right?
Yeah.
Until one day he was trying to startle a team of horses coming at him, and the horses turned unexpectedly and he was run down and killed. The earliest definite record I can find of Hairy Man Road is 1972. I can't find anything online in any like folklore journals or anything like that. And there's quite a bit of folklore here. Have you ever heard of like the outlaw Sam Bass? It's an old Texas story. There's a ballad about him too. I could send that to you, but it's a kind of a fascinating story about a guy from Indiana, actually, one connection. He was an outlaw here. So that's written down many places. His grave is well known. There's that whole story is maybe for another episode or something, but it's a fascinating story about Texas outlaws in the 19th century. But there's no mention I can find until the 1980s of the legend of the Hairy Man.
Huh.
And there's a lot of like Texas folklore things, and you can find, there's recordings, but I can't find any, I haven't listened to all the recordings, but I can't find anything that like looks like it would be about this.
Right.
So I'm not sure if the legend of the Hairy Man is due to perhaps someone fitting a legend to the name of a road,
Right.
or if it is a story that old, because there wasn't many people here like this. It was a post office and 20 people for a very long time. And one thing I did find looking and Googling, and that'll ruin your Google search history if you keep looking for Hairy Man and legendary Hairy Man. In Texas, especially, there was, I don't know, they would talk about a lot of like anybody who was very hairy. They write stories about these like supposed hairy men.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what, like, they referred to them as the Hairy Men, which I thought was interesting. There's a great story I found, I'll send you, about a guy named Mose Evans, and he's described as this. And I think it's sort of the diametric opposite of what I've gleaned from your show about the hermits and in Pennsylvania as being these like quiet, inward focused people. Like, this guy generally lived by himself, but he was also this like legendary. He would come into town and wearing a rattlesnake skin vest that stunk up the whole dance hall. Go just live in the woods by himself. This incredible story. But there's lots of stories that people described as being like hairy and like large beards.
Yeah.
And maybe there was a big hairy guy who lived there, or maybe there was some wild man who was covered in hair who lived on Brushy Creek. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. The plan was, before I got into writing all these other books, and I hope to get back to this someday, the plan was to do what I did for Bigfoot in Pennsylvania and West Coast Wildman for the whole country.
Yeah.
Bits and pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully I'll get back to it someday. But so I do have a folder of Texas stories, but I have to put them. If it said Texas, I threw it into the folder. I didn't see was it in East Texas, North Texas, et cetera, et cetera. So I have to like see if any correspond to that area.
Yeah, interesting stories too. There's a story that one of the local ghost tour companies here points to, a story that I found on newspapers.com of like someone who was covered in hair living in Texas, and he had a whole family of like hirsute offspring where they were all like covered in a long, luxurious layer of hair. It's a great story. The story's really well written. It's just a couple paragraphs, but it clearly was like, I think that the ghost tour company makes it sound like she lived in Austin. Mm-hmm. It said like he lived just over the state line from Oklahoma, and Oklahoma's 300 miles away.
Okay.
So I'm dubious about that.
Yeah.
There were hairy people around. Maybe one of them lived there.
Yeah.
It's hard to figure if the legend came after the road or the.
Yeah. Well, and for sure.
I'd love to find original document of an old story.
It doesn't take long for these legends to get assigned to these places. People like to know the reason why places are called the places they're called. And it was literally in the newspaper before I wrote my book on Toad Road that it was called that because the doctor who lived at the end of the road collected toad sculptures and had them all over his property. I found photos of his property, not a toad sculpture anywhere near it. It's just a convenient thing. Finally, I broke the code when I realized it's a towpath. It's that someone just called it Tow Road and somebody heard Toad Road somewhere along the line, and that was that. But it didn't take long from people didn't remember that this doctor's house was taken down in the 70s. So people would have been around that would have known for sure that there were no toads there. And it didn't take long for that to explode into the story, which was literally published as truth in the newspaper before I disproved it.
But it certainly is a great story. And it is in that area still, like it's bottomland underneath some bluffs, and there's really thick forest in that area. I mean, maybe there was a Bigfoot down there.
Yeah.
Maybe it was scaring people.
I'm interested now, so I'm going to have to dig in and see what I can find.
Yeah.
From way up here in the north. We'll see.
Yeah.
That's the advantage of the internet.
There's another sort of Bigfoot adjacent story of the Bear King near here in a place, gosh, probably about 40 miles west called Marble Falls out in the hill country.
Mm-hmm.
There's a story. It was actually published. It was published all over the country. There was versions that were slightly different here and there, published in 20 different newspapers, about a young woman who was abducted by the Bear King. It was like a hair-covered half man, half bear, who abducted her, took her on the mountains, and it's sort of like the Albert Austin story.
Yeah.
Where he ran her up to a cave somewhere, and she waited till he fell asleep, and then ran off, and was eventually found by hunters and taken home. And the hunters found this guy, and the one difference is they were able to shoot him. They said they found the Bear King, and they were so disturbed by how human he looked that they couldn't shoot him until he roared and charged him, and they had to slay him.
Well, that sounds like any number of Bigfoot stories.
Yeah, and there's actually a Bear King brewery out in that area that are still making beer today. I wonder where they got the names, like Bear King.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's from the old folklore.
That's
a great name.
I'm definitely going to dig that one up for sure.
Yeah, it's an interesting place. Like out in that area, there's huge granite domes, like not quite half dome big, but 400 or 500 feet tall. And the main one in Marble Falls actually cut down this whole mountain, most of the mountain, to make the Texas State Capitol and other large buildings. And there's still one of the domes that's intact is the Enchanted Rock State Park. Pretty amazing place. This giant, like almost 500-foot high granite dome just in the middle of the Texas plains.
Well, I have to get down there. Clint wants to show me some sights, but it's going to be in the middle of the winter because I cannot take the heat at all.
Man, I'd love to show you my witch's grove if you ever come down here.
For sure.
Or your place.
I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it. On the morning of April 18th, 1961, Joe Simonton saw a silver disc on his farm. He went out, investigated, stepped aboard the craft. And as there, he encountered 3 dark-skinned humanoids who handed him an empty jug. Joe filled it with water and brought it back for them. In return, they gave him some pancakes. Nate, would you eat the pancakes?
This is a story I've heard a long time ago, too, and I've always thought, like, I would eat the pancakes. I'd just give them a try. I would probably bring him some blueberries and syrup and maybe a little salt, spice those things up.
Yeah, apparently they were very bland. It was like, I wonder how they would react to, you guys need some help here with your rhythm.
Yeah. Well, you don't eat them plain. You got to put, maybe like a little roti and just to put some curry on them or something.
There you go. All right.
You left too early.
Nate, thanks so much for sharing your stories.
Oh, thank you, Tim. It's fun to be on.
All right. As I said, Nate mentions this Bear King story, and this is from the Evening Messenger from Marshall, Texas, May 30th, 1901.
Carried off by a bear man. A young lady out in Marble Falls, Texas, was carried off by a bear man and then returned home unhurt to tell the tale. That reminds me of the little boy that was lost a couple years
with
ago.
the bear. He said a bear.
A bear took him in.
Yeah.
They kept him safe.
Yeah.
The Kickapoo Indians of this region have long believed in a great bear man who rules all the bears of the mountains. Miss Ramey Arland, the heroine of this thrilling adventure, believes her encounter was with the chief bear himself. Ramey is a pretty girl and the acknowledged belle of Marble Falls. She has always been a skeptic as to the existence of the bear man. The remarkable story she tells has, however, gone far to convince the most skeptical. The bear man in the cave ventured almost to the back door of the Arlands, says the San Francisco Chronicle. Ramey went out recently early one evening to gather her flock of sheep, which were grazing nearby. This was a common occurrence, and her absence was not noticed by the family until her mother heard her daughter scream wildly a short distance from the house. She rushed to the door. The screams were repeated, but this time accompanied by the scream of a panther. The mother seized a gun and rushed into the woods, but could find no trace of her daughter. She returned to the house and, collecting a hunting party, searched the woods all night. No trace of the missing girl could be found. It was not until the next day that a hunter wandering the woods several miles from Marble Falls found Ramey walking aimlessly about. He helped her home, where she quickly recovered from her experience. I was walking along a narrow trail, she says, in telling her story, when a large black bear suddenly appeared in front of me. He quickly turned to run away, when a curious-looking animal, running on 4 feet, sprang out of the chaparral. I saw a glance that the monster in some way resembled a human being, and it flashed across my mind that I was confronted by the Bear King of the Kickapoos. It threw one of its long arms around my neck, glared into my eyes, and uttered a horrible sound. I expected to be torn to fragments. The creature seized me and ran toward the mountains. It reached its cave at last and then left me lying on the ground. I turned to escape at once, but the creature struck me repeatedly on the head when I did so. I gave myself up for lost, and finally, however, he lay down to sleep. I waited fully an hour before attempting to steal away. When the settlers and cowboys heard this strange story, they at once set out in the direction of the Moon Mountains for the purpose of destroying the monster. It ground its teeth together, and while pounding its breast, it would roar and scream like a panther. It was now so apparent to the hunters that the thing was at least human in shape that they had hesitated to fire upon it. And while they were deliberating, it suddenly bounded with rage straight toward the astounded hunters, and they were compelled to kill it in self-defense.
Now there's nothing more. What did they do with the body?
Yeah,
You know,
don't worry, the evidence is going to be released next Tuesday.
make sure to subscribe to our Patreon. We're just kidding about that, by the way. But do subscribe to our Patreon. That part we're not kidding about. No, it's an interesting story. You know, it has so many of these elements. Like you said, the bear story, I didn't even make that connection. I forgot about that kid with the bear. And
Her out being a shepherdess. And
yeah, it reminds me of the Albert Ostman story, too, where he's kidnapped by a Bigfoot and, you know, kept in the cave until he gives one snuff. This is from the 1920s, and it doesn't like it. You know, it distracts it enough where he can get out or whatever. It's a really neat story. Never heard that one before, so thanks for sending that, Nate. It's very cool. All right, Curiosity of the Week. Heavily tattooed men and women by Spider Web.
we call that nominative determinism.
I feel like in that Modern Primitives book that a friend of ours stole from us that we used to have, I feel like that was one of the people in there.
I think it might be like a tattoo historian.
Yeah.
This comes from the Riverbend book collection, of which I am helping John, let's say, disperse to the winds.
Yes, John has a backlog of books that Allison is helping him get rid of. These are non-comic book books. These are book books. So this is a book of historical photos of tattooed people.
Yeah, it's really cool because
and this is these are well before, this book's from the 70s, so this is well before the sort of modern tattoo craze, right?
Yeah, this would have been back in its sort of heyday of weirdos.
Yeah.
I will say that it also came with, and this I'm actually keeping and not including in the book, but it is a receipt from the 23rd of October, 1976 from Bookland in the York Mall, which if you're of a certain age from York, Pennsylvania, this will mean much to you.
Means much to you.
It means
you got
much
very
to me.
excited.
I was like, oh, a receipt from Bookland.
So, I'll take photo of this, and I'll put this in the show notes. The book's, it's a little bent.
Yeah, it looks like it has a little natural bend to it. Might have gotten a little
I
bit
think
of
you
water
could probably
at some point.
flatten that out. I don't know, maybe humidity, maybe
Yeah, it
not
could
even
be.
water. But I think you could flatten that out over time, put it in your bookshelf or put it under other books and so forth. If you're into tattoos or old photos and stuff, lots of tattooed people, it is, there's some nudity in it. Gasp.
Yeah, but mostly covered by tattoos. Though.
Gasp. If you click on the photo that I put in the show notes, that'll take you to our Etsy shop. And you can purchase that. You can purchase other Curiosities of the Week, those that are left. You can get Strange Memories t-shirts, stickers, patches, and more there. You can get artwork, prints, and originals, including the artwork for tonight's show. My books are there. If you get them from us on Etsy, they will come signed. You don't even have to ask. I'll sign them before we pack them up. Allison has some photos and other bits of ephemera up there. Go ahead and check it out. Our shop name is Lost Grave, which became so prescient after the King Arthur episodes. Mm-hmm. I knew I'd choose that name for a reason. Our shop name is Lost Grave. And there's links to that in all the show notes, well, most of the show notes to every episode, and at strangefamiliars.com. But if you go to Etsy and you type Lost Grave in the search bar, you type Strange Familiars in the search bar, you should see our stuff come up that way as well. And as I always say, thanks to everybody who purchases from us on Etsy. That's another way to help the show, and you get some pretty cool stuff besides. Don't forget about the Barred Owl t-shirt and hoodie pre-orders, everybody. They're up now, and we'll be back soon with more Strange Familiars. Strange Familiars is a production of Dark Color Arts. Intro and background music is by Stone Breath. If you want to hear more or purchase music, you can go to stonebreath.bandcamp.com. We are on Facebook, facebook.com/strangefamiliars. You can join the Strange Familiars gathering group there. We are on Instagram at Strange Familiars, one word, no underscore. Please give us a follow there. For Strange Familiars merch, go to strangefamiliars.com/merch. And for everything else, links to everything we do, go to strangefamiliars.com.
Who's the man who's gonna drink your whiskey?
Walking Sam,
Who's the man who's gonna drink your wine?
Walking Sam,
Who's the man who's gonna turn your mood?
Walking Sam,
Who's the man who's gonna drink your blood?
Walking Sam.
like thunder?
Walking Sam,
Who's the man who's gonna cry like rain?
Walking Sam,
Who's the man who's gonna chase your dog?
Walking Sam,
Who's the man who's gonna fade like fog?
Walking Sam,
breath upon his tongue. Walking Sam's gonna call to someone. Who's a creeping round the bushes?
Walking Sam,
Who's a creeping round the grave?
walking Sam,
Who's a playing with a bone?
walking Sam,
Who's a creeping all alone?
walking Sam,